Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the World Football Summit podcast. I'm your host, Jaime, CMO at World Football Summit. Today, we have a very special episode offered to you by LaLiga, who has been a global partner of World Football Summit for many years. Now, LaLiga deserves no introduction, and throughout the upcoming weeks, we will enjoy the opportunity to sit down with many of its leaders to understand how they are helping shape the future of the football industry. Now, given we are only a few weeks away from World Football Summit Africa, we could not think of a better guest to kick off this series. Marcos Pelegrin is Managing Director of LaLiga in Africa. Not only that, early in his career, he was very much involved in World Football Summit. So he knows both organizations quite well. With Marcos, we discuss the role of LaLiga in Africa and who the fan of LaLiga in Africa is, consumption of sports content and how it is growing across all channels, what he has learned from the different partnerships and projects LaLiga has been able to develop in the continent, the evolution he has witnessed on the African football industry, and his thoughts for what is yet to come, challenges that need to be overcome, and so much more. This was a great conversation, which I believe you will enjoy as much as I did. It helps you get a glimpse into the potential Africa can play in the global football scene. And remember, World Football Summit Africa is right around the corner. On November 16th and 17th, Durban will become the capital of the global football industry. You can't miss it. Head over to our website, africa.worldfootballsummit.com, and buy your ticket right now. Again, that's africa.worldfootballsummit.com. And with that, on to our conversation with Marcos Pelegrin from LaLiga Africa. Well, good morning, Marcos. It's a pleasure to have you here on the podcast to learn more about what LaLiga is doing in Africa. Really looking forward to finding that out throughout this conversation. But before we jump in, I want to understand, and I want you to help the audience understand who Marcos is. So I don't know if you can briefly describe your career thus far, and also what a managing director at LaLiga does. What does your day-to-day look like?
Thank you very much, Jaime, and World Summit. It's a pleasure to be here with you today to discuss what we're doing and where are we looking for in the near future for this beautiful region. As you said, I'm Marcos Pelegrin. I'm the LaLiga Managing Director in Africa for the last 3 years already. I'm a big fan of World Football Summit, a big fan of the football industry, also basketball, and that be myself in a nutshell. I want to take this opportunity to congratulate you and your team for all the work. I was happy and lucky to be in Seville 2 weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken, for the World Football Summit Europe, and it was amazing. So far, the best event that I've seen World Football Summit organizing, and I have to say thank you, because we had a great time and it was very useful for all of us.
So thank you for the kind words. At the end of the day, that's the goal, that you guys that are there, that enjoy it, and that you find the opportunities that you're looking for. So, yeah. So what does your day-to-day look like? What's your role over there at LaLiga in Africa?
Well, one of the things that I love the most about my position is that I cannot give you an answer to that, because of the different areas that we cover. It's impossible to define a regular day. We do work with marketing, comms, commercial, sports projects, CSI, digital, institutional affairs, business intelligence, business research, amongst others. So today we can be announcing a partnership in Zambia. Tomorrow or on Sunday we are organizing a watch party for the Clásico, looking to bring together more than 350 people. Or we are hosting also alongside the embassy the Spanish National Day on Friday, or we're meeting the Comms Agency this afternoon. So, and for me, this is very exciting, because every day when I wake up, I look at my calendar and see what's on the agenda for the day. And every day is different. So I cannot get bored, definitely. And also we get a chance to work with many countries, many markets. that are very different. So that's one of the most exciting parts about our job.
Nice. Sounds amusing. But I was also wondering, and I guess the audience also wonders, what's the mission of La Liga in Africa? I don't know if you can share some of the pillars behind, the strategy that you guys have, or the mission, or your objectives. Is there anything you can share with us there?
Well, for us, our main objective is to bring La Liga closer to its fans. At the end, we do have, I think, around the world, close to 2.8 billion in audience. Spain is less than 50 million population.
Wow.
So it's clear that our fans are not only in Spain, but the fans in South Africa, in Sierra Leone, in Rwanda. It's not easy for them to visit Spain and to come to our matches and everything. So our aim is to bring La Liga closer to our fans. And in order to achieve that, we do work in very different areas. As I mentioned, some of them before: marketing, comms, digital, events, institutional, commercial are some of the areas that we work at. And our pillars, the pillars of our strategy, are obviously the clubs, because at the end, we want to be their first step into the continent. We want to be, let's say, their representative office for them to use us and for us to support them whenever they want to come to work in the region. For them to get more information, for them to get the right contacts, and basically for them to feel comfortable working in this region, because we've been already since 2015, when the South African office was opened. It's going to be 7 years in 2 weeks. So it's been a while, and the amount of information and knowledge that this office has gathered throughout the years in the region is very broad and also very valuable for the clubs.
You mentioned the fan. And I guess, obviously, when we talk about Africa, it's a continent. It's a vast continent with many different profiles of people, cultures. But I don't know if you guys at La Liga have some form of understanding of who the fan is, who La Liga fan is. And I understand it in very broad terms, because I understand that each country differs. But I don't know if you have a clear profile of who is actually following La Liga.
Well, as you said, there's just plenty of differences between the countries, but we do lots of market research, and let's say that we can find some common grounds in the La Liga fans in Africa. First, that they appreciate the quality of the competition, and that they also appreciate a technical style of playing. Some of the things that they like about La Liga is that it's the most technical league in the world. The level of the playing is amazing. So those two things are very, very interesting for them. And also players completely in La Liga. We can say that those three things are some of the most important for La Liga fans. Mm-hmm. Also that in Africa, how people understand football is all about joy and having fun. For example, there's usually no problems on going to a stadium and both fan bases are together into the stands, enjoying the match together. It doesn't matter who wins or who loses, because they're gonna go home together. This is something that in Europe and in Spain, it took us a while to understand, and it's still a long way to go. But here it's completely different. So it's kind of a party vibe when it comes to football for our fans in Africa. So I say these are the characteristics that we can put together as common for all the La Liga fans.
Thank you for that. Thank you, because I understand it's not an easy question to answer because of the broadness of the question. But I'm curious. A couple of months ago, La Liga published a report with Nielsen. No, the main conclusion was that sports consumption, at least in Europe, was increasing. The thing is, there's so many channels and options available, no? So you have your video games, you have your live matches, you have your highlights, you have your documentaries. That overall, the overall consumption is increasing. Is that something that you also see happening in Africa as well?
100%, 100%. I have no doubt. There's the pay TV base of subscribers is growing by the day. The OTT subscribers is growing by the day. The digital users or the digital penetration in every single market in the continent is growing by the day. The amount of readers in terms of newspapers is digital or printed, well, printed not as much, but digital is growing by the day. And the social media users and engagement is growing by the day. So in all the platform, or almost all of them, the amount of people that is getting in and is interacting is growing. If we specifically look into La Liga figures, we're growing by triple-digit incomes for the last 2 years. We're growing at double-digit in social media, different platforms. We're growing also at double-digit in audiences. So in let's say in the three main KPIs in terms of consumption, we're growing very quickly in every market. Even though we have to understand that Africa, and especially Sub-Saharan Africa, there's not a single market as we might understand that there's in Spain. The disparity and the inequality makes that or forces us to work with different strategies because, for example, South Africa is the most unequal country in the world. So that means that there's a bunch of people with a lot of wealth, but there's also a big chunk of the population that has almost nothing. Obviously, those ones for now are not going to be into pay TV. So how are we going to work in order to deliver La Liga to them?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's an encouraging landscape, no? And especially given that we will be celebrating World Football Summit in Africa in just a few weeks. To understand that, or at least to know that the industry is blooming there, no? So that's good to see. Now, I'm also curious how does La Liga engage with the fan in terms of both attracting new ones and actually retaining the ones that they already have? Is this where like and maybe this is kind of like off left field, but is this where something like the joint venture with Galaxy Racer comes into play to help engage more fans and attract new ones?
Definitely, but the joint venture is for North of Africa and the Middle East. Mm-hmm. So okay. In the region that we work with from the office, which is Sub-Saharan Africa, the joint venture, it would not affect us, but okay. Definitely something that not only the GB and in the MENA region, also everyone that is in the international network of La Liga is looking at is how to keep engaging with our fans and also to bring more fans into La Liga. And for this, we do have, let's say, passive strategies like broadcasting our matches with our partners, SuperSport in Sub-Saharan Africa. And then also we work with a wide range of tools in order to get to the top of mind of the fans and potential fans. For example, there's a few initiatives that we've launched recently. For example, the last one that was last week released is La Liga Log, which is a pure entertainment content from Africa to Africans. It's a magazine show for 20-25 minutes that is distributed through our YouTube platform and also by the main broadcaster in the region, SuperSport, in order to appeal to the fans, to engage with fans in the region in the way that they want to interact with, in a way that they understand or they can see themselves recognizing, because at the end, the most important thing to understand is that we cannot approach every single fan in the world in the same way. And in this line also, for example, we launched last season the La Liga African MVP, which is basically we wanted to empower the African fans to vote for a favorite African player. It was a blast in terms of registrations, comms. It went viral. I think we reached more than 800 million in terms of communication. So these are the kind of projects that we're looking at to keep growing in the region.
Okay. Well, yeah. And thank you for correcting me on that. It's good to understand really what you guys are doing there. And I was thinking what you said there. No, there's so many different type of fans there. Now, I guess if I go to the other side of the coin, how do brands fit into that equation? No, because obviously we've been talking about how to attract new fans, engage new fans. Do you bring brands into that conversation as well?
Definitely. And the last two projects that I mentioned, they can answer, or they are good projects, but they also can be commercial assets. They can be put into a partnership with any brand. And this is also something that we're looking at because brands in the region, also because of the difficult landscape, they're looking to engage with the fans or with the population in a more meaningful way. And in this region, there's no doubt that football is one of the best ways to do so. So that helps us because we are an international brand, but also with a local implementation of our strategy. So that helps us to be working on these two levels that are really interesting for brands, because we are not just someone that is sitting somewhere else thousands of kilometers away. We are someone that is working on day to day, who has almost 20 professionals in the ground, working with everyone, and that we know what's going on in these countries. Also because more than half of our team comes from the region.
Okay. And I guess I'm curious to know, is it more difficult or more easy to convince brands to enter the space? Are there any reasons to believe that you want to share with them on why they should invest or explore opportunities in Africa?
Well, for us, we do have a competitive advantage, is that we are, alongside the NBA, the only brands that have presence in the continent. That has been for a long time. The only one in football that we have a very clear strategy of working and developing football and our brand together in the region. So I think that's a game changer for any brand, because you're not activating, as I said, something that is far away. We're working together with you on the field, and this is something that almost no one else can bring to the table.
And are there any tips that you give brands when you have the conversations with them that are actually looking for opportunities there, or any advice?
Well, more than tips, when we talk to brands, for me the most important thing is to listen, to understand what they look into, which are their objectives, and then we brainstorm internally to see how can we tap into their objectives. How can we guarantee that if they partner with La Liga, we'll be making sure that they achieve what they need or what they look into.
Nice. So thank you for that, Marcos. I think it gives everybody out there a sense of both understanding the fan, but also understanding the brand side. At the end of the day, the industry needs to understand both. No, I want to shift the conversation now to correct me if I'm wrong. You've been at La Liga Africa for 3 years now. So what is the evolution that you have seen in the African football industry? Is there anything that stands out?
It's in the continent. It's been growing steadily, but and also the pandemic didn't help football industry because in Spain or at La Liga, we were lucky to come back to competition after 3 months. Um, in most of the countries around here, the competition completely stopped. And it wasn't the easiest for them, but we see, for example, other sporting codes like rugby grow big time in South Africa or cricket, where a new T20 competition is going to be launched and looks quite exciting. You see people eager to have discussions. We've seen more little events on what's going on in the industry. We've seen clubs and some federations trying to look to the future and to professionalize themselves even more. But also we need to be careful because the industry is still fragile. It's still not as advanced as it is in other regions of the world. And if we don't protect it, and if we are not careful enough, we might destroy part of it. And there's been talks of competitions that one that might be launched that maybe sometimes it will be more harmful for the sports in the region that's beneficial.
And what about the future? What potential do you see in Africa for it to become a global football hub? A region that is actually capable of influencing the rest of the industry.
Well, in some way, it is already, because if you have a look at the amount of African players that are in every league around the world, there's massive. But I think it has the power to influence in a completely different way. Also, we need to bear in mind that, for example, by 2050, 1 every 4 inhabitants of the earth will be African. So this this region in terms of population is growing massively. So if the leagues, the clubs from all over the world, they want to grow their fan base, this is an area that they need to have a look at. The sooner they start, the better. We believe that being pioneering here, it will pay off. Also, if the region wants to grow in terms of sport as a sports industry, I see some actors, some provinces, some regions, some countries that are very forward-looking. But also, we need to improve in terms of governance. We need to open debates. And then there's still a few things that need to work. But I think it's just a matter of time in order to being able to provide that trust to brands for them to invest into sports, and also for the fans to keep looking into their local sporting codes.
I couldn't agree more with what you said. Now, with the amount of people on one hand, but also Africa is a region where the passion for football is just amazing.
Indeed, there's studies from a report from Nielsen that say that Nigeria is the most football-loving country in the world, where 85% of the population declares that they like football, and they're sit at the top. And if I'm not mistaken, there's another 1 or 2 African countries in the top 6. So that is very clear indicator of how much people love football in sub-Saharan Africa.
Exactly. And thank you for those data, because I didn't know about them. But just imagine the potential that it has if you're able to actually professionalize the industry more than just the passion for the game itself. I mean, the potential can be huge, which is one of the reasons why we believe it makes sense not to have a World Football Summit there in Africa. Because if you look down the line, and if that gets to happen, the sky's the limit, really.
Indeed.
No, I was just going to ask, because you were mentioning before, governance, trust, as key elements that that need to improve towards the future. So that got me thinking: are there any other opportunities or challenges that you see that need to be overcome for what we were just talking about, no, for that level of professionalization, for that to happen?
Yeah, mainly those two, but also I say like infrastructure. At the end, the sports, because of people is not able to, because broadcasting rights has not been developed a lot, because people cannot pay for broadcasting rights to have it at home in general. Most of the population, I mean, so it's difficult for the clubs and for the leagues to develop themselves without that revenue stream, which is the largest for almost every sports property, big sports property in the world. But my point is that now they have the tools to develop in commercial, ticketing, and different areas of the business for them to grow. And then at some point, the broadcasting will come.
Yeah. I agree. And I guess I'm going to go now with a more, let's say, personal question, and feel free to answer it or not. No, during your time there, 3 years is good timing, for you to see a lot of things happen. Is there any project or initiative that you are most proud of during your time there?
It's a very good question. It's been already, I think we've run over 150 different projects, just in South Africa, 600 in the continent. Wow. I think, and I like this answer because it's an ongoing one. Right now, with all the African team, we're working on defining an African strategy for LaLiga that comes with a lot of different projects inside, and it's very exciting because we're all together rowing towards the same direction. And for example, LaLiga Local, the African MVP are part of it, which I also love those projects. But I think this top line strategy is going to be great and bring a lot of good things for us.
I love that. Thank you. Because it's not only what you have done, but you're also focused on what's to come. No, so that's great to hear. Now, well, you just mentioned, I think, 600 projects. I think you just mentioned. I mean, your experience there is simply amazing. So I guess this question is more about based on your experience. We were talking about the brands, no, and the, let's say, the advice that you would give them. What about the industry leaders there? Do you have any insights or any tips that you want to share with African football leaders so they can help the region thrive?
Well, I don't know if I'm the right one to give tips to anyone. At the end, I think this is not a tip. This is what I try to implement. Is just about being effortless and doing as much as you can in the best way you can. Trying to be nice and good people and focus on your job. I think people have the tools, the education, and sometimes yes, and sometimes not, the means to keep growing the industry. I think in some areas it's doing very well. Also, there's a lot of interest. You see a lot of inspiring individuals that we could take advice from much better than from me. And it's really good to see how it's growing and how it's looking into the future. You see organizations like Supersport, what they're doing for sports all across the continent, working with leagues, working with clubs, creating content 24/7, giving you all the platforms, and trying to be innovative and move forward. And that's inspiring and also helps me, and I think the rest of our team to keep moving forward.
I appreciate the answer, Marcos, the honesty, because I understand your answer in a sense, but I think it's also important to understand really the view on how to improve things from the people that are actually making change through their day-to-day actions. No, so that's why I wanted really to ask that question. So thank you for that. We just have a few minutes left, Marcos, and I wanna be respectful of your time. I want to ask a few questions on more the side of the events like World Football Summit, because you understand the space, no, quite well, given your given your history with us. So I guess I want to understand from your point of view, and now that you've probably been to many events around the world, no, what is the value of in-person events like World Football Summit or any other? What do they bring to the table?
Well, for me, it's very clear, right? That's why we started with this long time ago. But definitely the networking, the content, being exposed to different realities and to the trends that are happening all around the world. For me, those would be the three key things. And also, if you want to add a personal component to be able to meet with friends from within the industry for a couple of days that you don't get to see throughout the year because you live 15,000 kilometers away. I think the World Football Summit in Seville, for example, it was exhausting. We didn't stop for 48 hours, but I think it was helped to recharge my batteries. I came back to South Africa with lots of energy after working, getting a lot of new ideas, getting to understand a few trends in the industry, and meet with friends and meeting potential new partners. That everything together. I didn't even want to sleep. I wanted to get hands-on because everything that we put together from World Football Summit.
Nice. Thank you for that. One of the things that we always make reference to in the office is a quote by Peter Moore, ex-CEO at Liverpool, no? And he said that it was one of the, I think it was 2018 or 2019, when he was with us at World Football Summit. And he said that in events like these, relationships are born, no? So going back to what you were mentioning about the personal side, no? And that you, a few years down the line, you would say something along the lines of, we met at World Football Summit, and that gives the connection, no? So I couldn't agree more, and it's actually something that still rings true for us today, no? And as we were mentioning before, World Football Summit quite well given your history. But I want to understand, what are your expectations for the first ever World Football Summit Africa?
Well, I'm very excited, to be honest. I was so annoyed that it had to be cancelled due to COVID back in 2020. So me and my team were really looking forward to participate this year. I think it's going to be bringing lots of good things to the region. I think it's necessary. And also, as I said, looking towards networking opportunities and new trends, potential partners, and also to showcase what we're doing in LaLiga, because also it's a good platform for us. And that's why we became partners, and we are always being partners as LaLiga to World Football Summit, because we believe in this kind of projects. I can't wait to share what is World Football Summit with all my African network, because obviously I've talked to them about this many times, but now in the next 5 weeks, it will come to reality finally.
Mm-hmm. We very much look forward to that event, and as you said, I mean, we've been looking for this moment since 2020. No. One last question from my side, Marcos. What can you say about Durban? Why is it the ideal place to host World Football Summit Africa?
Well, it's a wonderful city, mid-sized. I come from Zaragoza, and Durban is the size of Zaragoza, more or less. For me, it's the perfect size of a city. And I'm telling you, from 8 million population one. Very comfortable, amazing weather, amazing people. Most likely everyone is going to be looking back to the ocean. The ICC, the facilities are great. Good food, and definitely, and most importantly, hospitality. I think also Durban can relate to Seville in terms of also size and population. Um, and I believe that everyone is going to enjoy it big time.
Fantastic. We can't wait. Marcos, I don't know if you have any other comments, any questions that I should have asked, anything else you want to say, or if you want to send the audience to visit any of La Liga's profiles in Africa. I don't know, any place you want to send them to before we wrap up?
Nah, just to say thank you to you, Jaime, and to World Football Summit. I enjoyed this talk a lot, and also want to encourage everyone within the industry to come to World Football Summit Africa in Durban next month. We'll be welcoming you from South Africa, and feel free to reach out to me because it's going to be amazing.
Fantastic. Marcos, thank you so much for your time. It's been an amazing conversation, and we'll speak soon in Durban.
Thank you very much, Jaime. Looking forward to see you there.
Bye, Marcos.
Bye-bye.
And there you have him, our friend Marcos Pelegrin from La Liga Africa, giving an insider view on how La Liga is operating across the region. Before we go, remember, you can subscribe and rate the podcast on the platform of your choice, and reach out on social media with any feedback. And we are a little less than a month away from our first ever World Football Summit Africa, which is on November 16th and 17th. If you want to be a part of the collective that will help shape the African football industry into an instrumental player of the global football scene, make sure you head over to our website and buy your ticket right now. And we also have plenty of partnerships available for businesses looking to enter the football industry. Remember, our website is africa.worldfootballsummit.com. Again, that's africa.worldfootballsummit.com. We really hope to see you in Durban. Nothing else from my side. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the World Football Summit podcast. Have a great rest of your day, and we hope to see you next time.